My wife cheated on me with her boss, and now she's trying to claim half of our $1.2 million property, including the family home and a $200, $0 inheritance, after secretly doubling our debts on her side during our divorce negotiations. I never thought I'd be the guy sitting here, writing about how I found out my wife, Emily, was cheating on me with her boss, Mark. Honestly, it's like some bad soap opera, but it's real life. The craziest part. It all started with little signs I brushed off at first, things I thought were just normal stress or her being busy. You know how it is when you're married for a while. You start to notice little cracks, but you tell yourself it's nothing. It all came crashing down the day I accidentally saw the message on her phone. I had gone into the bedroom to grab a shirt, and there it was, an unread message from Mark, her boss. It wasn't just a quick, "Hey, good job today." It was something more, something intimate. The message said, "Can't wait to see you tonight, missed you all day," and there was a wink emoji. That's when my stomach dropped. I stared at the phone, feeling like I'd been punched in the gut. All the doubts I'd buried, the little comments she'd made about how tiring work was or how Mark just gets it, suddenly made sense. But that wasn't all. Over the next few days, I started noticing weird things. Her phone was always hidden, even when she was just sitting on the couch. She'd get these secretive calls late at night, and she was quick to hang up. She started dressing differently, more provocative sometimes, and I caught her lying about where she'd been. I'd ask her about her day, and she'd brush me off, say she was working late or meeting a client. But I knew better. The way she'd avoid my eyes, the way she'd get defensive whenever I brought up her evening plans, something was off. One night I followed her. I didn't even mean to, honestly, it was just a gut feeling. She told me she was going to a friend's house for a girls' night. Instead, I saw her walk into a fancy hotel downtown. I parked a few blocks away, watching through the window as she went in with a tall, confident guy, Mark. They didn't seem like just colleagues meeting for drinks, they looked like something more. They stayed inside for hours. I watched her laugh, touch his arm, and whisper in a way that made it clear they weren't talking about quarterly reports. That was the moment I knew. The woman I loved, the woman I trusted with everything, was cheating on me with her boss. I felt like I'd been punched in the chest. My mind raced. How long had this been going on? What did I do wrong? Why her? I was furious, hurt, confused all at once, but I kept my cool. I took pictures, recorded their sneaky rendezvous, and came home feeling numb, knowing I had enough evidence to confront her. When I finally sat her down and showed her what I'd found, her face twisted into this bitchy, defensive expression. She looked at me like I was the crazy one. "You're overreacting," she snapped. "It's just sex and it means nothing. Mark and I are just friends, you're being paranoid." But I was. I'd seen the messages, the late-night meetings, the hotel visits. There was no way she could deny it anymore. And yet she kept lying, making excuses, trying to make me doubt myself. That's when I realized how deep her betrayal really was. It wasn't just about cheating. It was about her trying to gaslight me into thinking I was crazy for catching her. That's where I am now, standing at the crossroads of heartbreak and fury, trying to figure out what comes next. After I confronted her, Emily's reaction was nothing short of infuriating. She looked at me with that fake, innocent face she always used when she wanted to manipulate someone. "You don't understand," she said, voice dripping with false concern. "You're overreacting, it's just sex and it doesn't mean anything. Mark is just a coworker, we're not serious." That's when I knew her lies weren't going to stop. She's a master at spinning stories, twisting the truth so that she's the victim, always the victim. I felt a mix of rage and heartbreak. I'd given her everything, my time, my money, my trust, and she was out there cheating on me with her boss, then trying to gaslight me into doubting myself. I had to step back and breathe, but inside I was boiling. How could she be so callous, so selfish? I mean, I work my ass off to keep our house and provide for her, and this is how she repays me, with lies and betrayal. It was like I'd been hit by a freight train. I remember sitting there, staring at her, feeling like I'd been punched so hard I couldn't breathe. And all I could think about was the money, our property, the inheritance, everything we'd built. We were sitting on a $1.2 million house, plus a $200, $0 inheritance from my family. That house was supposed to be our future, a symbol of everything we worked for. Now I started to worry, what if she's trying to take it all? She's always been bitchy about money, but I never thought she'd go this far. The next few days were a blur. I started digging into her phone, her emails, her social media accounts. I wanted to understand how deep this rabbit hole went. Turns out she'd been secretly doubling our debts, credit cards, personal loans, even taking out a second mortgage on the house without telling me. All during our supposed divorce negotiations. She was secretly trying to sink us further into debt. I found statements showing her running up thousands in new debt, all under the radar, all while pretending to be working on a settlement. I couldn't believe it. It was like she had no regard for what we had, only for her own selfish needs. That's when I realized she was planning to claim half of everything. Our house, the inheritance, even some of my savings, despite the fact that she'd been secretly destroying us financially. She kept insisting we'd settle amicably, but I saw through her lies. She was trying to play the victim, all while secretly setting herself up to walk away with a big chunk of our assets. The worst part, she was still trying to act like she was the innocent wife, the victim of my supposed paranoia. But I knew better now. I started to formulate a plan. I couldn't let her get away with it, not after everything. I had to protect what was mine, what we had built together. I started gathering all the evidence, her messages, bank statements, the fake debts she'd created. I also reached out to a lawyer, someone who specialized in property disputes and divorce cases. I knew I had to be smart. Emily was manipulative and bitchy, and she wasn't going down without a fight. I had to prepare myself for a war, not just emotionally, but financially too. Meanwhile, she kept up her act, trying to guilt-trip me into believing it was all a misunderstanding. "You're just insecure," she said, rolling her eyes. "Mark and I are just friends. You're making this into something it's not." But I wasn't buying it anymore. I saw her for what she really was, a selfish, manipulative woman who was willing to ruin everything we had for a quick affair. And I knew one thing, if she thought she could walk away with half of my property, she'd be in for a big surprise. I wasn't going to let her take what's rightfully mine, not without a fight. That's where I am now, ready to go to war over my house, my inheritance, and my dignity. I never thought I'd be in this position, but betrayal has a way of changing everything. I just hope I can come out of this with some semblance of what's mine. The more I dug into her financials, the angrier I got. Emily had always been bitchy about money. She liked to spend, but she also liked to control it. Now I saw just how deep her control went. She'd secretly racked up thousands in debt, all during the supposed divorce process, double-dealing, hiding her real financial situation and basically trying to drown us in her own mess. It was a calculated move, and it sickened me. She was trying to claim half of everything, including our house, the inheritance, and even some of my savings, all while secretly making us weaker. I couldn't believe how she lied so effortlessly. She kept insisting she was just trying to sort things out and that everything was for our future, but I knew better. She was trying to screw me over. I started to realize she'd been planning this for a while. She wanted the house, the inheritance, and whatever she could squeeze out of me. And she was willing to lie, cheat, and double our debts to do it. I remember sitting there late at night, staring at the documents I printed out. I felt a mix of rage and sadness. I'd worked so hard to build this life, and now I was staring into the abyss of betrayal. I thought about the house, our home, where we'd shared so many memories. It was worth over $1 million, and I knew she was trying to claim it all. She'd even gone after the inheritance, which was supposed to be mine from my family. It was supposed to help us start fresh, maybe buy a new place, or at least pay off some debts. But now I saw her scheming to take that too. I also uncovered some emails where she was discussing her strategy with Mark, her boss. They'd planned to make it look like I was the problem, the one who was paranoid or abusive. She'd even told Mark she was getting ready to cut him loose, but I knew better. They were still sneaking around, probably planning to run off together once she'd secured her share of the assets. I felt so betrayed, so furious. How could she do this? How could she lie so blatantly to my face while secretly plotting to ruin me? I decided I couldn't just sit around waiting for her to make her move. I had to act fast. I contacted my lawyer, a sharp guy named Tom who specialized in property disputes and divorce cases. I explained everything: her infidelity, her secret debts, her attempt to claim half the house and inheritance. He told me I had a strong case, especially with the evidence I'd gathered. But I also knew Emily was bitchy and manipulative. She tried to twist things in her favor. I had to be ready for her to play dirty. Meanwhile, Emily kept up her act, acting like the innocent wife betrayed by her husband's paranoia. She'd cry and whine about how unfair everything was, how I was trying to ruin her. She even blamed me for her debts, saying I was controlling and abusive, trying to paint herself as the victim. I just shook my head. She's good at lying, but I'd seen too much now. I knew her game. What made everything worse was the money. I realized she'd been secretly doubling our debts, taking out loans and credit cards without telling me. She'd even hidden the fact that she'd taken a second mortgage on the house, all while pretending to negotiate a fair settlement. I felt sick thinking about how she'd been secretly trying to sink us financially while pretending to be the one suffering. That's when I decided I had to fight fire with fire. I wasn't going to let her steal what I'd worked so hard for, not without a serious fight. I started to draft a plan. I'd confront her again with everything I had, and I'd fight her in court if I had to. I knew she'd try to spin her lies, but I had the evidence. I also knew she'd be bitchy, manipulative, and probably try to turn the tables. But I was done playing nice. This wasn't just about the affair anymore. It was about protecting my assets, my future, and my dignity. I was ready for the war. The question was, how far was she willing to go? Because I was prepared to go all the way to make sure she didn't walk away with half of what I'd built, especially not with her sneaky, bitchy schemes. I never thought I'd say this, but I was starting to see how deep her betrayal went. It wasn't just about having an affair. It was about her trying to destroy us financially, emotionally, and legally. And I was done being the victim. It was time to fight back. By the time I met with Tom, my lawyer, I had all the evidence laid out: screenshots of her messages, bank statements showing the hidden debts, the fake loan applications she'd filled out, and the email exchanges with Mark. I felt a strange mix of relief and dread. Relief because I finally had proof, and dread because I knew Emily wouldn't go down without a fight. She's bitchy, manipulative, and she's used to getting her way. Still, I was determined. I wasn't going to let her walk all over me or claim half of our property without a fight. Tom listened carefully, nodding as I explained everything. "You've got a solid case," he said. "She's clearly been hiding debts, trying to double your liabilities, and she's attempting to claim assets she's not entitled to. We'll need to file for an official divorce and seek a court order to freeze her assets and prevent her from transferring anything further. Also, given her attempts to double deal during negotiations, we can challenge her claims to the house and inheritance." I felt a flicker of hope, but also a heavy weight. I knew Emily was bitchy enough to try and manipulate the system, and I had to be prepared for her to fight dirty. Meanwhile, Emily's behavior only got more bitchy and manipulative. She tried to play the victim, crying and insisting I was trying to ruin her life and destroy our family. She kept insisting she was innocent, that she'd only been trying to fix things and protect her future. But I saw through her act. I knew she was trying to sway the court, trying to make me look like the bad guy, all while secretly plotting her next move. She even accused me of controlling her, which made me laugh bitterly. After all, it was her who'd been secretly controlling the money and sneaking around behind my back. One night she had the audacity to say, "You're just jealous because I still have a life outside of you." That's when I snapped. I told her she was a selfish, lying bitch who was trying to ruin everything I'd built. I told her I was done playing her game and that I'd fight her every step of the way. I explained I'd be seeking full custody of the house, the inheritance, and a settlement that would cover the debts she'd secretly accumulated. I wanted her to realize I wasn't going to be the pushover she thought I was. The emotional toll was brutal. I'd always been the stable one, the provider, the guy who kept everything under control. But now I felt like I was losing my mind. Every time I looked at her bitchy face, I saw how she lied and manipulated, how she tried to turn everything around on me. I felt betrayed, angry, and exhausted. But I also felt a strange sense of clarity. This wasn't just about the house or the money anymore. It was about standing up for myself and not letting her destroy everything we'd worked for. And the money, God, the money, was a huge part of this. She tried to secretly take out loans, rack up credit card bills, and even double our debts, all during the divorce process. I knew she was trying to sink us deeper financially so I'd be forced to settle for less. That's when I decided I'd fight her on every front. I was going to make sure the court saw her for what she really was, a manipulative, selfish woman who was willing to lie, cheat, and steal her way to get what she wanted. I also started to think about how I'd protect the property, especially the house. It was the biggest asset, and I knew she'd try to claim half of it. I had to get a court order to freeze the assets and prevent her from transferring anything. I also wanted to get a forensic accountant involved to trace her hidden debts and see exactly how much she'd tried to cheat me out of. I'd be damned if she walked away with half of everything, especially after all the lies and betrayal. So I prepared myself for the battle ahead. I knew Emily was bitchy enough to try and drag this out, to play the victim and to twist everything in her favor. But I also knew I had the evidence and the legal backing to fight back. I was tired of feeling helpless, tired of her lies, and tired of her manipulations. This wasn't just about money anymore. It was about standing up for myself and making sure she didn't get away with ruining everything. I was ready to go to war, and I had a feeling she was too. The real fight was just beginning. The court date finally arrived, and I can't even begin to describe the mix of dread and adrenaline I felt walking into that courtroom. Emily looked bitchy and smug, like she still thought she had the upper hand. She'd been throwing tantrums, crying, and trying to manipulate everyone involved, but I knew better. I had all the evidence, and I was ready to fight dirty if I had to. I wanted to make sure she understood she wasn't going to walk away with half of what I'd built, especially not after all the lies, debts, and betrayal. From the moment the hearing started, Emily's bitchy attitude was on full display. She tried to act innocent, claiming she was just trying to work things out and that I was paranoid. She insisted she deserved half of the house and the inheritance, even though she'd been secretly doubling our debts and hiding money. Her lawyer tried to argue that she was entitled to her fair share, but I had the evidence, screenshots, bank statements, emails, that proved she'd been scheming from the start. My lawyer, Tom, laid it all out, how she'd secretly taken out loans, hidden debts, and manipulated the divorce negotiations to her advantage. He pointed out that she'd been trying to claim assets she had no right to, especially given her financial dishonesty. The judge listened carefully, asking questions and reviewing the evidence I'd brought. Emily kept trying to spin her lies, but it was clear to everyone that she'd been acting in bad faith. One of the most satisfying moments was when Tom presented the forensic accountant's report. It showed exactly how much she tried to sink us in debt, thousands of dollars in hidden loans and credit card bills. The judge looked visibly annoyed with her, asking pointed questions about her financial dealings. Emily's bitchy expression started to fade as she realized she was losing control of the narrative. She tried to argue, to cry, to plead, but her words sounded hollow when faced with the hard facts. Throughout the hearing, I felt a strange mixture of relief and anger. Relief because I knew the court was seeing her true colors, and anger because I was furious she'd lied and manipulated her way into trying to take everything from me. I thought about the house, our home, and how much I'd fought to keep it. The judge eventually ruled that Emily was not entitled to half of the house, especially given her attempts to hide debts and manipulate the process. She was ordered to pay back the debts she'd secretly incurred, and the court awarded me full custody of the property, the inheritance, and the assets I'd fought so hard to protect. The final decision was a huge blow to Emily. She sat there, bitchy and seething, realizing she'd lost her fight. She kept trying to argue, to twist the court's ruling, but it was no use. I felt a strange sense of victory, like I'd finally taken control back from her manipulations. But underneath it all, I was still hurting. The betrayal, the lies, the way she'd tried to destroy us, I couldn't shake that feeling. Still, I knew I'd done everything I could to protect what was mine. The aftermath was a whirlwind. Emily moved out of the house, still bitching and trying to spin her version of events, but it was clear she'd lost the battle. She'd also been ordered to pay back most of the debts she'd secretly taken on, which left her furious and bitter. As for me, I was left to pick up the pieces. I had the house, the inheritance, and a sense of justice, though knew it wouldn't erase the pain of her betrayal. I felt exhausted, but also relieved that I fought for what was rightfully mine. Looking back, I realize how much this experience changed me. I learned that betrayal cuts deep, but it also reveals who people really are. Emily's bitchy, manipulative side came out loud and clear, and I'm glad I was able to stand my ground. I've come to understand that sometimes you have to fight dirty to protect what matters. And I'd tell anyone going through something similar, trust your instincts, gather your evidence, and don't be afraid to stand up for yourself. Because the truth has a way of coming out, and in the end, justice might just be on your side. Now that everything is settled, I find myself sitting here, reflecting on how much my life has changed in such a short time. Honestly, I never thought I'd be the guy who'd go through something like this, betrayed, manipulated, and then fighting to keep what's mine. But here I am, having fought hard and come out the other side with a clearer sense of what's important. The house, the inheritance, my sanity, they're all my hard-earned assets, and I refuse to let anyone take that away from me, especially not someone as bitchy and manipulative as Emily turned out to be. Looking back, I realize I should have seen the signs earlier. The secretive calls, the hidden debts, the way she'd lie to my face, those were all red flags I ignored. But I was blinded by love, by trust. Now I know that sometimes you've got to face the truth head-on, no matter how painful it is. Because if you don't, someone else will do it for you, and it might be too late. This whole ordeal taught me a lot about myself. I learned I'm stronger than I thought. I learned that betrayal can cut deep, but it also forces you to stand up and fight for what's right. I learned that money isn't just about possessions. It's about security, trust, and the future you build with someone. And when that trust is broken, you have to fight for it back, even if it means going to war. Most importantly, I learned that sometimes the best revenge isn't just in winning a court case or protecting your assets. It's in reclaiming your peace of mind and moving on from the pain. Emily's bitchy attitude, her lies, her manipulations, they all show who she really was. I refuse to let her define my future. I've started rebuilding myself, focusing on my work, my health, and the things that truly matter. To anyone out there dealing with similar betrayals, trust your instincts. Gather your evidence. Don't be afraid to fight for what's yours. Because in the end, honesty and integrity matter more than any amount of money or property. And if you stay true to yourself, you'll come out stronger on the other side, just like I did. I hope sharing this story helps someone else realize they're not alone. Betrayal hurts, but it also teaches us resilience. And in the end, the truth always finds a way to come out.